Feldschirmpanzer Hermann Division is a Feldjäger Panzer division with not a lot of airplanes and not really a lot of panzers. Reconnaissance, you have a pretty healthy mix of recon infantry as well as armoured recon vehicles. For infantry, you got a rather healthy selection of Ersatztruppen, Panzer Grenadiers, Begleiter Grenadiers, as well as these Walkür units, which I can't say properly. It's a pretty awesome selection, to be honest. And also, you have quite a healthy amount of half-tracks to boot. Tanks is pretty light. You got some T-34s, some Panzer IVs, and one Carter Tigers, so you are restricted to 2-star veterancy. There's a lot of support options, such as Flampanzer half-tracks, this Italian tank thing, some Panzer Freehands, and also if you need to level a city block in Warsaw, you got the Sturm Tiger. Anti-tank is very straightforward. You got Pak-38s, Pak-40s, and then a bunch of Jagdpanzers. Anti-air is also pretty basic. It's mainly a lot of 20mm guns, as well as a lot of Flak ATH. No 37mm, however. Artillery is also pretty awesome. You got 105, 100 mils, mortar half-track, Resps, Hummels, off-map artillery, 150 mils. Pretty much everything for all occasions, you just don't have a lot of artillery. And for airplanes, you got some Stukas, you got some 410s, you got some ground attack Stukas, cluster bombers, and some Messerschmitt rocket planes. 5th SS Panzer Viking Division is a German panzer division with a lot of infantry. Recon is pretty lackluster, but that's the same for a lot of panzer divisions. Infantry is very basic. You got your Panzer Grenadiers, Pioneers, all of that, but you get a lot of them. You don't have a lot of half-tracks, rather, only 62.5 runs. There's a lot of tank options. You got Panzer IVs, some brand new Stug 4s, captured T-34s, and a bunch of Panthers, including this new Panther Hero unit. That's a pretty cool paint job. Port's pretty basic for Panzer Division. You got machine guns, you got Flampanzer half-tracks, grills, and a bunch of tank commanders. Anti-tank, you got some captured Su-76s, a few AT guns, and a bunch of Jagdpanzers. Anti-air is pretty lackluster. You got one card of 37mm, some flak villains, and a truck. Nothing really too fancy. Artillery is rather plentiful. You got mortars, field guns, Weiligwerfers, as well as self-propelled guns. Also, we got to note the new transport. The awesome Berg Panther, because, well, it's a Panther, with a 20mm gun, and a big box on top. Aeroplane, you got Night Fighter Ju-88, your main bombers are really just going to be HE-11 runs, and you also have the Focke-Wulf 190D9, which is a pretty fast and slick-looking aircraft. There's also a rocket version as well of an older Focke-Wulf. Its division name up here, which I cannot say, I'm not going to even try to pronounce, is essentially a Soviet rifle division with a bunch of Poles. Got a bunch of basic recon options, you got some Su-57, which is also cool, and also note your recon infantry here have MG42s. All these Polish infantry pretty much have analogies to regular Russian rifle infantry. I mean, these are tank Desonidkis, these are Sapri PPSHs, but you do have this Stroke squad of SVTs, which is pretty awesome. You do have some penal units, so these guys are actually disheartened, as well as, I believe, these are Strokey DP. Tanks, unfortunately, you're mainly just going to be using older T-34 models with 76mm guns, but you do have some T-70s, that's cool. Support is rather standard. Anti-tank is also rather standard. You have a lot of slots, but not a lot of cards, unless you like 45mm guns a lot. Your 45mm guns are pretty good. Anti-air is pretty standard, got a lot of 37mm, which is nice. Artillery got a rather nice selection, Su-76s, Katyushas, some Run 22mm. It's pretty decent. It's got pretty decent air power as well, with Yak-1s, IL-2s, Yak-3s, and IL-2 cluster bombers. You're definitely going to want those cluster bombers. The Polish Home Army is very similar to the SAS Brigade in ST-44, but instead of getting saved by the Americans, you kind of, but not really get saved by the Soviets. There's a lot of recon infantry options, from snipers to larger Scrotch, and a few armoured cars. Also some rather funky infantry transports, such as the Q-Bus, which is essentially a Polish shot, and some captured half-track. Infantry is all over the place. The nice thing is all the infantry slots only cost 1 point, so by God, you're going to fill them all up. And all the infantry units are usually pretty beefy in size, and they just have a real hodgepodge of equipment for everything from flamethrowers to, well, the Polish submachine gun. Tanks is also all over the place. It's the same thing with Kurkro. The tank slots only cost 1 point. But a lot of the cooler tanks here, such as the Panzer IVs, Hetchers, as well as the Tiger and Panthers, You only get one of them per card, so you gotta make it count. Also very similar to how SAS Division worked. Support is also pretty all over the place as well. You do have one captured Borgrord, if you really want to get a Borgrord, that is. Anti-tank is pretty light. You got some Piat squads, you got some Polish 37mm which shoot rather fast, and you do have HE cells which is rather interesting. But apart from that, you got your Pack 38, your Zish-3s, and Pack 40s. Anti-air is abysmal. They didn't manage to steal many anti-aircraft guns in Warsaw. Artillery is also pretty abysmal, as you don't really get a lot of guns. That's not until Sea Phase where you get liberated by a literal shit ton of mortars. Airplanes is honestly not that bad. It's a really huge mix of U-2s, some Yak, some IL-2s, pretty decent stuff, and also some American P-51s who've been flying a little bit too far east.